UAW President Shawn Fain has reacted to Donald Trump's announcement that he is going to be giving a speech to auto workers. So, in this video, I'm going to go over what Donald Trump is saying about this announcement. I'm going to go over his actual record on labor. I'm going to, of course, show you the statement from UAW President Shawn Fain. And then I'm also going to get to some other things, including a couple of videos from just to compare a Democrat versus a Republican about what they are saying on this strike by the UAW. And just to show you how different these two sides are on labor specifically, while one side is pretending to be very pro-labor, or at least one candidate for president is. So let me get to first here. This is the news of Donald Trump and his planned speech. So from Politico, former President Donald Trump will speak in Detroit to current and former members of the Auto Workers Union on September 27th, the day of the second Republican primary debate, according to three people familiar with the plan. So before I even get to anything else, you can already tell that this is a purposely strategic move by Donald Trump. He's not going here. I mean, maybe he would have tried to do this, give this speech anyways to fake support for the workers here, but clearly he's picking this date specifically to contrast the debate that he will not be attending. So he's trying to both take away attention from that debate while also trying to pretend, hey, look, I'm here with the working class, while all you other candidates are fighting amongst yourselves. So it's clearly a strategic move here just based on the date he chose to do this. But more here. So Trump's team has not yet released details on where the speech will be held, but it is expected he will address over 500 union workers representing different trades, including auto workers. And while a visit to the picket line has been discussed, a person familiar said it was unlikely Trump would make a visit due to logistics. I like, I love this. Unlikely he's going to actually go to the picket line due to logistics. The logistics being he would not be welcomed there. Bernie Sanders just gave a speech with the UAW. I have it, upcoming here in my tabs, but he just did this. So no logistics problems here. But when it comes to Trump, it's logistics. I just can't do it because you would not be welcomed because you are anti-worker. And the union is very aware of that, as are many other unions. So before I get to the response from UAW President Shawn Fain to Trump's announcement here, let me just go over a bit of his bit of the reaction to his labor record. So this is from the Communications Workers of America. I believe this was during his presidency. From reading it, probably 2019 or around there, 2018 maybe. But they go on to write, at every turn, Donald Trump and his appointees have made increasing the power of corporations over working people their top priority. The list of the damage done to the working people by Trump, the administration, is long and growing every day. Here are a few examples. So it's very long. I'm not going to read through everything here. I will link to everything below, but let me just give you a little taste. So Trump has encouraged freeloaders, making it more difficult to enforce collective bargaining agreements, silenced workers, and restricted the freedom to join unions. In case you're wondering, freeloaders means people who benefit from the protection of a union but don't have to pay into it. So Trump has encouraged that as a way to decimate unions. And they go through more specifics on those points here. He's also, of course, against the PRO Act, which was a very pro-union, pro-worker piece of legislation. Trump has restricted overtime pay, opposed wage increases, and gutted health and safety protections. And they go into more details there. He's also helped insurers reduce coverage and made it easier for pharmaceutical companies to inflate drug prices. So, again, more details and encouraged outsourcing and offshoring. All of this stuff, there's a lot here. He has a long anti-worker record. Another example, because it isn't just, one group saying this. This is the Chicago Laborers District Council. Also, this was during his presidency, October 2020. Anti-union actions by the Trump administration. And they go through all of them, including gutting our wages, how he portrays himself as pro-worker, but like many of his assertions, is a flat-out lie. Undermining apprenticeship programs, and on and on and on. Again, more details here. It would take all day for me to read through all of Trump's anti-union actions, but he's very clearly anti-union. There's also independent reports about this. The American Prospect, an independent outlet, going through his record here. The workers' friend. Here's how Trump has waged his war on workers. And there are so many details here. Like half the stuff, more than half the stuff, I just completely forgot it because there are so many anti-worker actions that Trump did while he was president. But some of the stuff here, Trump effectively scrapped the fiduciary rule that required Wall Street firms to act in the best interests of workers and retirees in handling their 401ks, move that could cost many workers tens of thousands of dollars. Trump erased a rule that extended overtime pay to millions more workers, a move that will deprive many workers of thousands of dollars per year. While Trump boasted that he is the best friend of miners, his Labor Department pushed to relax rules for safety inspections in coal mines. So even the one issue where you may think he's on the side of the coal miners because he hates anything at all having to do with addressing climate change. Even on that, he's not actually pro-worker. He is pro the corporation because he pushed to relax safety rules that would hurt the workers and help the corporation save money. And there's more. I mean, there's paragraphs and paragraphs of this. So, like, the idea that this man is pro-worker at all is completely nuts. It's completely counterfactual. So let me get to and here's more Trump. Or sorry, when Biden came in, he reversed a lot of those Trump orders seen as hostile to at least federal workers, but went on to do a lot more in terms of hiring people that were more pro-labor within the NLRB. He came in here and ousted all 10 of Trump's union busters from a powerful labor panel. So Biden, to his credit, and look, there are criticisms, of course. We could talk about how Biden completely crapped the bed when he came to the rail workers and that whole fight. So there are, Biden isn't perfect either. But in terms of comparing the two, I mean, it is night and day. So there really has been a seismic shift from Trump to Biden on the issue of labor. Now let's get to the reaction from UAW President Shawn Fain on the idea that Trump's going to be giving a speech. So in a statement, UAW President Shawn Fain was not the least bit welcoming. Quote, every fiber of our union is being poured into fighting the billionaire class and an economy that enriches people like Donald Trump at the expense of workers. We can't keep electing billionaires and millionaires that don't have any understanding what it is like to live paycheck to paycheck and struggle to get by and expecting them to solve the problems of the working class. He is not not holding back here with Donald Trump. So being very clear about how anti-union Donald Trump is. Now, will Trump be able to scrape together, 500 people that support him that maybe, very likely, maybe were in a union, maybe retirees, but people that were in a union or around a union somewhat? I'm sure he can, because yes, there's of course a contingent of people that are within unions that prioritize certain issues over the fact that over working class issues. So yeah, I'm sure he could scrape together 500 people, but it's not going to be anywhere near the actual representation of what the union stands for or who the members actually are. So he will try and fake the support for the working class for the cameras. But the reality, of course, as I showed you, is much different. Now, this is worth mentioning as well. So Fain's tough words for Trump aren't a surprise. In a letter sent to union membership in May, Fain said a second Trump presidency would be a disaster. But Fain hasn't been overly kind to Biden either. Although Fain has at times praised Biden, he has also criticized the president for failing to do enough to help the auto workers in their cause. And he also has yet to endorse Joe Biden, even though I expect the union to eventually endorse Biden. The election's a year away, so there's a lot of time. But he's holding his endorsement right now to try and push Biden further in support of them. And it's working. I mean, Biden came out recently calling on major automakers to improve their offer to workers, saying he respected workers' right to strike. So at this point, it appears he is really trying to win over the workers here. Now, would Biden be saying this anyway, even if he already had the endorsement? Maybe. But I do think it puts a little more pressure on him to come out and speak in favor of the workers when he's trying to win their endorsement here. So good on Shawn Fain for holding out for now. I'm sure, again, as I said, eventually they will endorse Biden because the alternative, as I showed you, is much worse. But I think it's a good strategic move here by the UAW. Now, this is also worth mentioning, as Shawn Fain really does not want this fight to be about, either potential president. He writes here, This is our battle. Our members are out there manning the picket lines, and our allies are out there with us. It's not about the president. It's not about the former president or any other person prior to that. So he's really making this about the workers, with their interests. I even saw a recent interview with him on television where he was pushing back on the idea that Biden can somehow come in here and broker a deal. He flat out rejected that and said, like, no, this is not about Biden, not about Trump. This is about what is best for our workers, and we're going to fight for that. So, which is really good to see. That, you know, oftentimes we have seen leadership in some unions bend to politicians in a way to try and appease them, and here you're not seeing that at all. You are really seeing Shawn Fain fight the fight for his membership, for his workers, and everything else is just noise. Now, let's compare, shall we, two politicians. A Republican on this discussing the strike versus a Democrat discussing the strike. So first up is Republican Tim Scott. He is, I think, still running for president. Has he dropped out yet? I don't know. I think he's still running for president. But of course, he's a senator from South Carolina. Let me show you what he had to say about this strike.
I think Ronald Reagan gave us a great example when federal employees decided they were going to strike. Either you strike, you're fired. Simple concept to me.
Very clear position here from a powerful Republican senator, understanding no legislation would get through the Senate without his support, and also understanding that every other Republican senator agrees with him on this. This is, again, what he said here. I think Ronald Reagan gave us a great example. When federal employees decided they were on strike, you strike, you're fired. Simple concept to me. Flatly anti-worker. To show you just, and I've discussed this in other videos about the strike, but to show you just, you know, how unlevel the playing field is here. Over the last 4 years, the big three automakers' profits have gone up 65%. CEO pay at the companies has gone up 40%. Big three spending on stock buybacks to artificially inflate their own stock, up 1,500%. Average new car prices are up 34%. Inflation is up 20%. Auto workers' wages are up just 6%. Yet Tim Scott thinks that workers don't deserve the ability to stand their ground and fight for what they actually deserve. Withholding labor is the only way that workers can get what they want. Because otherwise, what incentive is there on these corporations? They're going to keep taking and taking and taking as much as they possibly can until they're forced to act. Let's contrast Tim Scott there with Rashida Talib, whose father was actually in the UAW. So here are her thoughts on this strike.
My dad, who came to the United States at 19 years old with only fourth grade education, different ethnicity, different faith than many of the folks that were in his community, was able to find human dignity in the workplace on the line at Ford Motor Company because he was part of a larger family called the UAW. And it was, for me, a no-brainer. It's not even... You know, folks ask me which side I'm on. I'm absolutely on the side of the UAW. I'm one of the 14 children in my family, and folks ask all the time, how did I get straight teeth? It's because of the UAW that my family got dental care and my dad was able to retire with human dignity.
Do you think that there's a compromise to be had here? Is there room for agreement between the union and the big three automakers?
Absolutely. I mean, look, I don't know what compromise, folks' definition, especially corporations, tend to have a different definition for it. I can tell you this. Much of what's missing in this contract has been part of contracts since 1948. For instance, cost of living adjustment. Every single UAW contract had COLA in it until 2009, when the United Auto Workers came together and said, we're going to help you big three, stay afloat. We didn't have a tier system. The majority of UAW workers today do not have a pension. I mean, it's completely immoral and just wrong on the parts of the big three. The fact that now all of a sudden with record profits that they're leaving the same workers that sacrifice the most behind.
Democratic Congresswoman Rashida Talib very clearly in support of this strike, in support of unions generally. As she writes here on Twitter, The UAW workers are the reason the big three are making record profits, but the big three CEOs are now making 360 times more than their average worker. The UAW is making history fighting corporate greed. Two very different messages here. Now, of course, not every single Democrat is 100% on board with what Rashida Talib is saying here, but a much larger percentage of them, and you could argue the president and at least people he's hired in the NLRB are in agreement with Rashida Talib, based on just the complete shift we have seen from Trump to Biden. So it is a very different perspective here, and one that has, let's be clear, has not been represented in the Democratic Party for, decades. So to see this resurgence now in support of the working class, and especially a strong support here from people like Rashida Talib and, of course, Bernie Sanders, even though he's independent, does caucus with Democrats, it's important to have these sorts of leaders speak out in support of the UAW and these sorts of strikes. And, of course, as I showed you earlier, Bernie was actually on the picket line there with the UAW in that fight, giving a big speech. This is just, I'm very much looking forward to seeing what Trump's speech is going to be, because you just know it's going to be total crap. He's going to try and, I'm curious what he's going to say, because he is has very clearly an anti-union record. The UAW clearly is not in support of him, and he usually, hates people that don't support him. My guess is he's going to try and blame this on leadership. Oh, this union president, Shawn Fain's crazy. Yet he's the one that is really fighting hard for the workers. You're looking for a 30 to 40% pay bump to match what the CEOs have made. This man is fighting for his workers. So any sort of, language that Trump's going to have trying to criticize the UAW leader it's not going to fly. But I guess we'll see next week when he attempts to give the speech on the same day as the next GOP debate.